Welcome to Gamers Overdrive Retro Mode. Kick back and relax while I blast you back in time and guide you down a pixelated, coin-operated, button-mashing memory lane paved with joysticks, consoles, and dusty old cartridges. Where good guys are always good guys, bad guys are always bad guys, and the fate of the universe lies in your hands. Time to kick it into overdrive. Retro mode. Insert coin to play.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to Gamers Overdrive. Gamers Overdrive Retro Mode. Really sorry about that. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to like this video, and if you want weekly retro content, please for lots more. Now today is a very special episode. I'm talking today about none other than Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat is a cultural phenomenon, and chances are you've heard of it, even if you've never played it. Today, we're going to actually analyze a little bit what Mortal Kombat meant to pop culture, what it meant to the gaming community, and what it means today in the modern era. Now, I can say for me, in 1992, when this game first came out, I was a very impressionable young man at 10 years old. And I could not avoid the marketing for this game no matter what I did. It was everywhere. It was in magazines, it was on TV, it was in movie theaters. It seemed like everywhere I went, I just heard, and I couldn't stop hearing it. And it was very, very effective marketing. Now, needless to say, I needed this game. And at the time, I had a Super Nintendo home console. And it was a no-brainer. So I went to the store, I bought it, and it was a non-issue. Took it home, and I started playing it, and that's when I realized that the version I was playing was very different from the version that was getting all the media attention. Now, first of all, why was this game getting media attention? This game was, at the time, one of the only games that depicted very realistic violence. And the characters themselves were shot from digital images that were then transferred into the game. And so you were essentially looking at real actors. So unlike a game like Street Fighter where the characters were hand-drawn sprites, these were real people who filmed their actions and their motions on camera and then were literally transported into the game. So I remember the first time I saw this game in the arcade, I was shocked because I had never seen such a realistic game before. I looked like I was looking at real people. Now, that's the first thing that strikes you, is that it's just so realistic looking. The second thing that strikes you is that it's incredibly violent. Now, when you are, first of all, when you're a kid, and second of all, when you're a boy, and third of all, when you're growing up in the 1990s in America, this is like the perfect storm. So I think that the company, Midway Games, I think they knew that they had a marketing no-brainer on their hands. So they just do I think they marketed to kids specifically? Absolutely, without a doubt. Is that right? No, I don't think it is right. At the time, of course, I had no concept of that type of morality. But now as an adult looking back, I definitely think it was wrong for them to market this game at kids without having a proper rating system in place. But why Mortal Kombat became so culturally significant is because they were kind of the spearhead into creating the ESRB rating system. So while I don't think that they did it intentionally, actually I can pretty much guarantee that they did not do it intentionally, they did create the conditions that were necessary for the rating system to get made. And again, I think that this rating system is very important. As a person who, first of all, I'm a teacher of young children. I also write children's books, and more importantly than any of that, I'm a father. I think it's extremely important that parents know what they're getting. So when you buy a video game or a movie or anything really, I think that you should know what it is that you're getting. Unfortunately, even with this rating system in place, I don't think that a lot of parents really, I don't think they really pay much mind to it a lot of times. I know that a lot of the students that I have are playing games that I personally would not allow my own children to play at a young age. But again, that's all about parental discretion. And so I think that at the end of the day, even when you do have a rating system in place, I think that, it's up to the parent for their discretion, and hopefully, your child will, if you do choose to let your child play a game like Mortal Kombat, then they are mature enough in your eyes to, understand that it's not real and that it's not intended to push violence as a lifestyle. It's just entertainment. And now, a game like Mortal Kombat, it's funny because Mortal Kombat 1, which is the game that I'm going to be playing today, it's kind of tame by today's standards. And a lot of what we see in the news and a lot of what kids are exposed to today in the modern era, unfortunately, is a lot more violent than Mortal Kombat is. But at the same time, it is a game, and it is something that a lot of kids will have access to. And should a kid play Mortal Kombat? I can tell you personally, if my own child wanted to play Mortal Kombat, I would not allow it, honestly. I think that I would wait until the child was older. If they came to me and they said, "Hey, Dad, what's this Mortal Kombat all about?" I would explain what it is, and I would say that I don't think that it's appropriate for somebody your age, so I will not condone you playing it. But, that's my own discretion. Anybody else's discretion is completely up to them. But again, we do have the ESRB rating system now, thanks in part to Mortal Kombat and the controversy it created. So, what else? In 1992, we had a lot of strange cultural things going on in the United States. We had music and media that was just kind of extreme. What we were used to in the 80s, a lot of softer, fluffier, kind of more polished things were getting the shine wore off of them. So I think people were consuming more grit. And so Mortal Kombat represents exactly what people wanted in the 90s. They wanted that grit, that kind of raw experience, even in their video games. And so, a lot of kids today play games like Grand Theft Auto. Grand Theft Auto is infinitely more violent and inappropriate than Mortal Kombat, in my opinion. But when you do have a game like Street Fighter, where you have two people fighting, and I personally am totally fine with kids playing Street Fighter, I don't feel exactly the same way with Mortal Kombat. And the people at Nintendo were kind of the same mindset as me. And so, like I said earlier, when I got my version of Mortal Kombat home, I realized that there was no blood. The blood had been replaced by sweat. And the fatalities, which are the finishing moves that you can do at the end of a round, they had all been cleaned up into much more family-friendly fatalities, if that's a possibility. But yeah, so now the Super Nintendo version of this game and the Genesis version of this game were kind of the things that really got this conversation going. If Mortal Kombat had stayed in the arcade and never came out, I don't know if we would be having this conversation today. But because the game went home, and kids were going into stores, picking it up in a box, taking it home, and popping it on the TV in front of them, that's where this all gets started. So a guy named Joe Lieberman, who you might have heard of, he's a politician, he kind of was at the forefront of this battle on Mortal Kombat. Is it appropriate? Is it not appropriate? Should we have ratings? And in the end, he won. So we do have the rating system, and I would, again, strongly suggest that all parents heed the rating system and at least look into what the game is all about before you buy it for your kids. And you should know what your kids are playing anyway. Now, in 1992, we had Chris Cross warming it up. And we had Scorpion warming it up in a different way. We had Billy Ray Cyrus begging you not to break his achy breaky heart. And then you had a guy named Kano, who quite literally was breaking your achy breaky heart. The game is Mortal Kombat, and I'm going to show you two versions. First I'm going to show is the clean version from Super Nintendo, and the second I'm going to show you is the not so clean version from the arcade. So, Clean version first, not so clean version second. Here we go. Mortal Kombat. In 3, 2, 1. Hey everybody, so here I am inside of Mortal Kombat for the Super Nintendo. Now, there were two huge, important consoles at the time, 1992. There was the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis, and there was a console war going on. Now, you had to choose sides. There was no standing in the middle. Even if you had both systems, you had to choose sides. I was a Super Nintendo guy. My best friend, Chris Doughton, was a Genesis guy. And that was just it. So he had the Genesis version, I had the Super Nintendo version, and I can objectively say the Super Nintendo version was better in every single way. It had better graphics, better sound. It was just more accurate to the arcade, with the one exception of not having blood and graphic fatalities. If you had the Genesis version, you could put in a code, ABACABB, and that would unlock all of the blood and fatalities. Super Nintendo one didn't have that, but it was still great. Still a good game. I had a lot of fun with it. And here we go to the character selection screen. So this is Johnny Cage. Johnny Cage was actually based off of Jean-Claude Van Damme. This game originally started out as a project to create a game based on Jean-Claude Van Damme. And so even his initials, Johnny Cage, JC, Jean-Claude. It's like a nod to him. So Ed Boon and John Tobias, they were really into Van Damme. And eventually that fell through, so they just made it a fantasy kind of martial arts style game. But they kept in that tribute to Van Damme. So I'm gonna choose the cleanest guy, because this is the clean version of the game. This is Liu Kang. Liu Kang is played here by Ho Sung Pak, who you may know from various Jackie Chan movies and also WMAC Masters. Probably have no idea what that is, but Google it. Anyway, he is a Bruce Lee clone with white tennis shoes. Why does he have white tennis shoes on? I don't know. It looks weird, but he's a cool character. He's actually the hero of the game. He's kind of the star of the game, and that's why he's kind of like a superhero in a way. His fatality, even in the uncut version, is very tame. He just does a little bicycle kick and then uppercuts you. He doesn't really kill you, so he's kind of like a superhero in that way. So here I am, I'm gonna fight Sub-Zero. Sub-Zero is an ice shooting dude. See, he's shooting ice at me, but I'm gonna kill him with my flying kick. Now, this game it still plays great today. That's why these classic games, which are now called retro games, they stand the test of time. I mean, they're really well made. They're fun to play. Look at, he froze me in midair. And see, when I just uppercutted him there, that would be normally like a bloodbath. But it's the same game. It's just kind of it removes a lot of the unnecessary graphic details. Now, if they removed all that stuff and the game was just suddenly terrible, that would mean it was a terrible game. But again, and I'm not playing very well here. But I will tell you, it's still a very fun game to play, and it's been ported to like every single platform you can imagine. I had this on, I remember I had it on Game Gear, Sega Game Gear, which is like a really underpowered system. And it was still, decent, playable. So you see, we're here at a tournament, and that dude up there that I'm kicking in the air, that's Shang Tsung. He's the guy who's throwing this whole tournament to find out who the best fighter in the world is. And why is he now? Look, he's gonna kill me here. That's kind of corny. He didn't do his fatality on me. But in this game, his fatality is he freezes you, turns you into ice, and then he back fists you, and you just shatter like a big ice sculpture. So I'm sorry about that terrible, embarrassing performance. I'm gonna blame it on the controller. How about that? It's not the controller's fault. It's my fault. I'm now choosing Sub-Zero's mortal enemy, who is Scorpion. Scorpion has this awesome spear move. Get over here, come on here. And I really love, one thing I love about this game is the set pieces. I love the background. It's got that mystical kind of Asian feel. And why am I sucking so bad? This is really embarrassing. It's hard. harder than I remembered. But yeah, so these guys are so these ninjas they look a lot alike, but they're actually mortal enemies. And the guy that I am, who is Scorpion, he's actually an undead kind of zombie type dude. He came back from the dead. I'm sorry, I'm distracted by my own inability here. This is terrible. But yeah, he came back from. He actually is the mortal enemy of this guy, and then he ends up killing this guy. And there's a whole story attached to it that you can either completely ignore or you can really delve into the lore of it. And this game series is still on running. We're on the 11th game now. There have been 11 games in this series. And the original creators are still the developers. It's kind of amazing. They've changed hands. So Midway Games. Let me see. There you go. Yeah, I did okay. See, they left that one in. That one is still kind of gruesome. But I guess flames are okay with Nintendo. You can scorch your opponent, and that's family friendly. But the fatalities is weird because, you know, I played this game so much in my youth, and you never forget how to play. It's like riding a bicycle. Even though I'm really, really bad at it right now, I remember all the moves, like, you know, back of my hand. I just can't. I'm a little rusty. But even the finishing moves, they're all up in the old noodle. And yeah, this game was really groundbreaking at the time. I know, you know, the younger generation is going to look at this and think like, that you thought that looked real? What is wrong with you? Yeah, I understand that, but you have to understand that everything is relative, you know? When you were used to little blips and bloops on a screen, and then suddenly you're seeing people that look real, you know, these are real actors. It's your brain doesn't jump ahead 20 years and say, "Oh, well, one day I'm going to look at this as a cartoon." I really, literally, to me, this looked like a movie. It looked like I was watching a martial arts movie. And yeah, this game is so different from Street Fighter. Also, you know, Street Fighter 2, which I have an episode on. You should watch that one definitely. Street Fighter 2 was cloned by so many different companies and so many rip-offs. And Mortal Kombat didn't go that route at all. Mortal Kombat made its own style, its own place in the market. And 11 games. We're 11 games later in the series now. Plus spin-offs, cartoons, movie. The most successful video game movie ever, I don't know if it still holds that title, but it did for a very long time, was the Mortal Kombat movie, which came out in the mid-90s. Now we're playing here on the pit stage. This is one of the stage fatality areas, so you can actually knock your opponent off of this this bridge here, and it's pretty cool. But who I'm fighting now is Sonya Blade. Sonya Blade is a cop, and she's still in this series today. I think even in the future games, her children are in the game. I think she marries Johnny Cage eventually, and they have kids. And see, this is the stage fatality. It's like, ooh. And it could have been worse. Could have been a lot worse. And it's about to get worse when I play the arcade version. So I'm gonna do this little test your might thingy, and so you're supposed to tap the buttons real quick and then hit block, and I couldn't do it because I was yapping my mouth off. But anyway, that was the clean version, the Super Nintendo version of Mortal Kombat. We're about to see the not so clean version. So if you are squeamish, if you don't like violence, if you just don't want to be grossed out, no need to keep watching. But if you do want to see what the real deal is all about, I'm about to show it to you in 3, 2, 1. Hey everybody, so I'm back in the Reset Collection app, my favorite app for retro games. This is really a truly amazing app. Here we have Mortal Kombat. This is the arcade edition. This is the uncut, the legit, the real deal. And it is, here we go, Midway Presents. So when you walk into an arcade in the 90s, this is what you would see on the screen. It would just, wow, your eyeballs would be drawn to it. You'd see the win streak and you would say, could I be in that win streak one day? Whoa, 3,356,790 points, that's a lot. Maybe I could be up there and I could be famous. Look, Kano, he's the one who's going to break your achy breaky heart, whether you understand or not. And Kano is a violent dude. He's a member of the Black Dragon Society, and they mean business. Do you see the difference in the graphics here? They're a lot bigger sprites and a lot more movement. And so I'm gonna be, why don't I choose, I'll be Johnny Cage. All that talk about Van Damme made me want to play some Johnny Cage. So yeah, Shang Tsung is the last boss of this game. He's the one who threw this tournament. And then when you make your way through the game, he's up there in the chair, see? When you make your way through the game, you have to fight him. And he's like, he can shape-shift and become like the different characters in the game. It's pretty cool. I think I'm much better at the arcade version. I think the SNES version is like, something wrong with that. It wasn't me. It wasn't my lack of skill. It was definitely the Super Nintendo version. Now look at that. Let's knock his head off. And you know, this is like second nature to me. Like I don't even think about the fatalities. I know everybody's fatality in this game. I do it just like second nature. And it's just, as you see, it's really the same game that you saw. And I'm impressed that Super Nintendo was able to reproduce it as well as they did back then. But no, it's a different game. It's much more, it's tighter, it's more solid, the graphics are much better, the sound is crisper. And of course, it's got that blood and those fatalities. So yeah, Johnny Cage has this shadow kick. And he's got this uppercut. I never liked his uppercut. It's too straight up. It doesn't have good range. A lot of the other guys have better, curvier uppercuts. There we go. Sorry, Sonya. I didn't mean to do that. I apologize. Don't worry, you'll be regenerated and I'll fight you later. So here we have the Hall of Heroes. You can see all the heroes in the game are up there in statue form. Would you stop with the... Hey, easy there. Sub-Zero. Sub-Zero probably has the most graphic, gruesome fatality in the game. He rips your head off and the spine is dangling down. It's pretty nasty. But that was the one everybody loved to show off. But my favorite was always, I think, Johnny Cage. You know, my name is Johnny John Boy. And I was also a big Van Damme fan. But yeah, this game is, yeah, so it's basically a high and a low punch, high and a low kick, and then a block. And the block is usually a part of the fatality. So if you want to do one of the fatalities, you have to hit block. Let's see if I can do it this time. Yeah. See, I think that, yeah, the arcade version is a lot easier to play. I smashed that like it was nothing. Liu Kang. See Johnny Cage and Liu Kang. This is the great Ken and Ryu, the two heroes of the game. And I guess Johnny Cage would be the Ken, and Liu Kang would be the Ryu. Yeah, I think that's a fair comparison. And here we are in the pit. Now you see, I showed you the pit in that last one. When I'm not going to do the fatality, I'm going to do the stage fatality. I'm just going to knock him off the pit, and you will see a lot of different stuff going on down there. And it's not quite as pristine and polished as the SNES version. This game is intense, gets your heart racing. Whew. Now, even if I lose, I think he's probably going to do what I'm trying to do to him, which is knock me off the pit, which is fine. As long as one of us goes off. The cool thing is Liu Kang's fatality is perfect for this stage because his fatality ends with an uppercut, and even though it's a clean fatality, like he doesn't do anything bad to your organs or anything, it uppercuts you, and that's the conditions necessary for falling off the pit. So this stage is like the naughty Liu Kang stage. Even though he's a good guy and he doesn't kill his opponents when he beats them. Watch. Look. Is he not gonna? He didn't even do it. He missed his uppercut, and then he didn't even follow up with it. That's embarrassing, Liu Kang. That's embarrassing. Or maybe you really are the hero that they made you out to be. I'm gonna be. Should I be Kano or Sub-Zero? I guess I'll be Sub-Zero. Now Raiden, the great question is, what is Raiden saying when he does his charge at you flying thingy? Is it Adibole? Is it Adibabara? Is it Adibabole? Nobody really knows. I've Googled it a couple times because I'm very curious. but yeah, I didn't really get a definitive answer. And see, that's it. And sadly, in the future games, they I think the most recent one, the Mortal Kombat 11, they removed it altogether. He doesn't have any more scream. So there are a lot of different cheap techniques you can do to win in this game. You can do a lot of flying kicks. The flying kicks have good range and they have like a good hitbox. And then you can also do tons of sweeps. If you sweep them over and over, you're probably gonna win. See if I can pull this one off. Yeah, look at that. See, it's like no. I memorized all of these fatalities as a kid because I had nothing else to do, and I'm glad to see it serving me all these years later. Great. Hey, Kano, that hurt. So yeah, this is. I think you get the idea. Mortal Kombat for the arcade. This is the. I mean, this is the arcade version. This is the weird thing is, if you were playing this game in the arcade or a movie theater, the rating system is completely irrelevant. And, you know, it was released in arcades before there was the rating system. So, like, your kid would just walk up to it and pop a quarter in and play. And there was nothing stopping them from, you know, all the spine-ripping action. But, you know, weirdly, like, my dad saw me playing this game when I was a kid in the arcade. And he was right next to me when I did one of these. Actually, I didn't do the move. The computer did it to me. And he was just like, he wasn't really grossed out. He didn't think it was weird. So again, it comes down, it's weird because I would expect my dad to be totally against it. He was really strict, but this didn't bother him that much. So, you know, every parent's different, and I guess every parent knows their child and what they're gonna take seriously and all that, and what they're not. But yeah, Mortal Kombat is still a very fun game. Still holds up all these years later. And, you know, you have options. Now you know. You can play a clean version if you want. If you really get grossed out by this kind of stuff. But, yeah, if you want to go legit, then MAME. I would recommend MAME. Or there are multiple ways to buy this game. I have on the screen behind me, you can see it's the, look at that, I just smashed that stone. I have the Mortal Kombat collection, the arcade collection for PS3 on the back of the screen here. And that has all the first 3 games and perfectly restored, and I'm perfectly recreated. They look exactly the same, but you can choose the graphical options like smoothing and filters and different size screens and all that. And this is a mirror match, so I'm fighting myself here. And I don't think I froze anybody, I see. There we go. So, guys, thank you so much for joining me for this unusual take on Mortal Kombat. And if you like what you see, please don't forget to like. And don't forget to subscribe for weekly retro content. Thank you so much for joining me on Gamers Overdrive Retro Mode, and I will see you next time.